Okay, I'm going to call this meeting to order. This is the April 16th Finance and Personnel Committee meeting. First of all, I'm just going to make sure that we know who is here today on the committee. So I see online we have Supervisor Turk.
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, great. In the county boardroom, we've got Supervisors Brewer, Gentis, Luck, and myself. So we're just missing Supervisor Cooey and Supervisor Seep. Are either of you on the phone?
So Supervisor Cooey had emailed he wasn't going to be able to make it. Well, that was Tuesday night, wasn't it?
That's the board meeting, I think.
Yeah.
Sean, this is Kerry Severson. I was just on the phone talking to Don Seep. He's in Madison right now, but I told him to get off and call in. So there might be a delay of him being able to call.
Okay, thanks for prompting him. We'll see if he calls in.
Thanks for handling Don, Kerry.
Okay, so we do have 5 out of 7 members here, so we do have a quorum to conduct business. Agenda item number 2, proof of notification. I did check the bulletin board. The agenda is down there, and then I sent the email out to everyone else listed on the CC list on our agenda.
Mr. Chair, if I can interrupt for just a minute.
Yep, go ahead.
Comment from support.
Just a quick reminder that we do have the committee on committees at 2.
Yep.
So
thank you. Good reminder. So we only have an hour today for our agenda since we have the committee on committee meetings at 2, and we'll try to get done a few minutes early so we can transition there. Agenda item number 3 is agenda approval. We have a 10-point agenda. I'm looking for a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Okay. Second. Motion by Supervisor Brewer, second by Supervisor Gentis. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. We have a 10-point agenda. Agenda item number 4, previous meeting minutes. Looking for a motion to approve those.
Gentis, so move. A second.
Okay, motion by Gentis, second by Luck. All those is there any discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, we have approved minutes. Thank you, Mr. Bell, for doing our minutes. Much appreciated. Agenda item number 5, reduction in county clerk salary for the 2025 to 2028 term. So here today, I am recommending, I'm walking out on a little bit of a limb here. I spent several hours trying to figure out how to crack this nut, and it was pretty challenging. So I'm just going to go ahead and present this, and then we'll go around. I'd love to really need your all's feedback to see if you think this is heading in the right direction. I'm recommending a motion to approve a reduction in the county clerk's salary for the 2025 to 28 term to match the salaries of the Register of Deeds and Treasurer, and forward this motion as a resolution to the county board at our meeting next Tuesday. So the background on this is that I've heard several people in the past few days raise the question of reducing the clerk's salary. It's been advertised that the clerk's salary is approximately $79,000 annually. And what I did is I started with Resolution 20-44. That's one of the attachments. That established the 2021 to 24 salaries for the 3 offices that were up for election last November, and those are 4-year terms. So the clerk's salary is $15,000 higher than the Register of Deeds and the Treasurer, which are both at $64,000. And then there are built-in wage increases in that resolution. They're either 2.5% for the first 2 years or $1,200 for the 3rd and the 4th years. I did reach out to Wisconsin Counties Association attorney Andy Phillips. Mr. Langrek started an email thread, and then him and I got on the phone, and we were looking at Wisconsin statute 59.22 section 1 and 2, and Mr. Phillips is interpreting that as restricting the county board from reducing the salary for anyone holding these elective offices during the term. Section 2 has to do with appointed officials. So I was a little bit confused because I thought we're appointing this official. This is not an elected person, but he was saying, in his opinion, it has to do with the elective office, whoever holds that, no matter how they got into that office. So his interpretation, therefore, was that the salaries could not be reduced because of the language in 59.22. And that is an attachment. I'm just going to read the language because I get confused sometimes when I don't check back over the language. The language is, the compensation established shall not be increased nor diminished during the office's term and shall remain for ensuing terms, and I had to look up ensuing because I couldn't remember what that meant. It means later, unless changed by the board. So in his opinion, going back to the background document, well, I should say, before I go back to the rest of his opinion, so he does, tripping over myself. He does think that salaries in future terms may be decreased. He said you can clearly do that. So I researched, I used Supervisor Luck's spreadsheet from the Administration Transition Committee with all those counties and the forms of government, and I just plugged in salary numbers. And I called all of the clerks in counties that had a population of 15,000 to 24,000, and the clerks in counties that had that were neighboring to ours, like Grant, Vernon, Sauk. And I got answers back. I think I said 13 in the background letter. I've had 2 more come in since I submitted this yesterday. And in that list of salaries, you can see that we have the highest paid of any elected official that's in this group of clerk, treasurer, or register of deeds at 79 grand. The next highest is 74 grand. So that's about 15 times, that's about 45 different elected officials. We have the highest paid. Most of the time, the clerk was not the administrative coordinator, and they had the exact same salary as the treasurer and the register of deeds. In cases where they were the administrative coordinator, there was one case in particular, there was a fairly healthy bump, but not as high as the difference that we have. And that was a difference of, I believe, $9,000, whereas ours is $15,000 for administrative coordinator duties. So knowing all of that information, sorry, I'm jumping from spot to spot. Did someone join us? I should say, did Supervisor Seep, Supervisor Cooey join us? Oh, okay. Supervisor Cooey, can you hear me? We're just checking our attendance to see who's here in the virtual room with us.
John,
Yeah, your
I'm
mic
here.
not.
This is Mark.
Okay. Okay, great. So Mr. Bell, we've got Supervisor Cooey at the meeting now. So going back to Attorney Phillips's opinion, he advised that since the expectation of any future appointed or elected clerk may be to continue at a base salary of what will be $83,000 by the time we get to 2024, 2025, that a resolution similar to the one that I drafted below will establish the alternate expectation that the clerk's salary will fall in line with the salaries of the Register of Deeds and Treasurer at that time, and shouldn't be reflected as shouldn't be interpreted as a reflection of the performance of that person who holds the office of county clerk. My initial reaction to all of this was that I thought this would be a good time to change the salary because the administrative coordinator duties have shifted over to Mr. Langreich. That would be my preference, but hearing the opinion of Mr. Phillips, I'm trying to create some sort of a compromise. I think part of the question that might come up is, what are we going to get for that extra $15,000 in the next few years? Will the change in salary versus what was advertised, will that change anyone's mind about wanting the job? Either if it were to go down right away, or if it waits till 2025 to go down. So those are a couple of questions that came up in my mind. And I'm going to ask Ms. Dadoun, did you want to speak up? So Ms. Dadoun, am I saying your last name right? She is our temporary corporation counsel. Is that how we're saying it, or what's the?
Using the word interim.
Interim, thank you. Probably a better word. So she did take a look at this yesterday as well, and I'm wondering if you can weigh in with your opinion at this point.
Get my email this morning?
I did, and it went to myself and Supervisor Brewer, so that other committee members haven't heard your
Okay.
opinion.
Do you want me to address that?
That'd be great. If you could just share your thoughts on it.
Well, hello, everybody. I recognize that I'm very new to this, new to the situation, and so just
Make sure to just pull that microphone up close enough that's great. Thanks.
Okay, so I realize that I'm new to the situation, and I very respectfully am sharing my very new opinion. So one of the things that I was thinking about was I was president at the administrator transition meeting last week, and a lot of the duties from the current clerk were assigned to the administrator. And was based on the past clerk. Earlier this week, we find out that we do not have that clerk anymore. We are going to be having a new clerk, and we have this $15,000 out there. Something else that came up at the transition meeting was that the fact that Clint might perhaps need an assistant. So does it make sense to hire an assistant and pay that person? And then we also have this $15,000 assigned to our current clerk. So what I was thinking is, as we take applications from people interested in becoming the new clerk, maybe address the situation and say, yes, you're going to have clerk duties, but there's also this transition in place and an expectation, because you're going to be getting this extra $15,000, that you will be taking on more responsibility than perhaps other county clerks do. And so in that way, as this shift develops with the administrator and the new county clerk, maybe there could be some kind of a resolution saying that this extra $15,000 is not necessarily the clerk's salary, but it is a transitional compensation as the county clerk and the administrator work together to figure out how this new leadership is going to work. And I thought maybe you could have some kind of memorandum of understanding that at the end of the term, the county clerk's salary will then be in line with the treasurer and the register of deeds. So I was just trying to think of a way, like, how can we make this work for us? And perhaps that's something to, as these different people apply for the job, to talk about with them. And so that was what I was thinking.
Great. Thank you. Thank you for those thoughts. And I think now we can just go to committee members. I'd love to hear each person's thoughts on this. So Supervisor Gentis, you want to go first?
Well, I have a question, Marty, I guess what you said, that the State County Association said that salary couldn't change because it goes with the office. But I thought we had on our steps that when we hired a new person, is that not with elected officials, that they move back to step 2 or something? Isn't that what we were saying, that beginning people would be at step 2? Is that what you remember, Marty?
Yes, but this is not a hiring. This is an appointment
It's
to,
not the same, huh?
not the same.
Okay,
In my opinion, it is not the same.
okay.
So Supervisor Gentis, I did hear some questions about this as well. And we're getting Supervisor Seep. I got a speakerphone coming up to my ear right now. So just.
Is this gonna work, Don? Are you able to hear us talk with Sean's voice?
Okay, you're right next to me, Supervisor Seep. Okay, so in our current adopted wage scale, I did request the spreadsheet from Ms. Hendricks, and the salaries of elective officers are all listed as annual. There are no steps for those. Furthermore, if you go to attachment B in our documents today, and that's Wisconsin statute 59.22, they include attorney general opinions at the end of each statute. And one of the attorney general opinions is related to this issue of whether or not elective offices should have steps or not. And the attorney general opinion, I'm summarizing, I'm not going to try to read it right now, was that you cannot do that. It has to be the same salary for anyone who comes into office, no matter their years of experience. A good question. A lot of people have brought that up that I've heard. Okay, others? Supervisor Luck?
So I think that it makes sense that we would reduce the salary, especially given the data we have from other counties of the same size with the same responsibilities. So I think it makes sense. And I mean, I think we should do what the county, if that's Attorney Phillips' position that we can't do it midterm, then let's not do it midterm. But I do very much like her suggestion that, if we're going to be stuck paying the salary that it is right now until 2025, I guess, right, the beginning of 2025, that it certainly makes sense that that clerk then would continue, because their administrative coordinator duties no longer exist, we can transition those duties to whatever needs we need for the administrator and work it. I think it could be a really good transition. And then by the time that transition is complete, then it's 2025. And we will have to be very, very clear and upfront with the applicants stepping into this position that that is what's going to happen. And we probably should do it as soon as possible since there are interested parties.
Sure. Okay, thank you. Supervisor Brewer, do you have?
Yeah,
thoughts?
I think we're stuck paying the higher salary. I mean, there's no doubt about that. I think if I know who the applicants are for the new appointment, I believe all of them understand that this will be at a reduced salary at the next election. But having said all that, wouldn't that be a darn thing to do, to take on a job and say, and by the way, if you do a really good job, in 3 years, they're going to reduce your salary $15,000. So that's a tough one. It really is. And it's a problem that we've created, not knowingly, maybe unknowingly, but we drifted into it, and here we are. But as far as I'm concerned, Sean, your resolution is the only way to go with this. Let's get it cleaned up now. Let the people who want to apply for appointment know that it's going to happen, and then let the chips fall where they may. It's the only way to do it.
Okay, thank you. Supervisor Turk, do you have any thoughts on this?
I feel along the same lines as Supervisor Brewer that, yeah, it's kind of a mixed message to send. We want to hire you for this job, and then we're going to cut your pay. But that explanation of having the transition time and that, the duties of the job have been significantly reduced does make some sense. If we find the person who is the right fit and willing to agree to those terms, I think, it could be successful.
Okay, thank you. And then Supervisor Cooey, do you have any thoughts you want to share?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing else we can really do here by the looks of it. And I agree with Marty and Dave and everyone else that the problem's not going to be for the next 3 years. The problem's going to be in the fourth year when they get elected and get a $15,000 reduction in pay. So I don't know if there's any way that you can do it on a temporary basis or something to where you wouldn't be tied to that wage schedule, but I'm sure you've already looked through all that.
Yeah, I've tried, but I left the feeling pretty frustrated by the end of my research yesterday. So, um, certainly if there's anything that I missed that people notice either today or if this does go forward to the county board, if we notice by Tuesday, we can always make amendments to this if I missed anything.
What happens if
oh,
you don't fill a position?
I'll let Mr. Langrek, he's going to take that one.
Again, novice on law, but I believe underneath statute, is it underneath 5923, where if we have a situation where the clerk is not able to perform the duties, like in a situation of resignation, that I believe by then, after county board would take a resolution to say they can't perform duties, we have 90 days to fill the vacancies, I think is where I read it.
59.23 section 1C, that's where it does say that.
And just going on with that thought, I mean, I don't want to stray too much from the agenda here, but we are in the appointment mode here, not particularly at this juncture. But it does give us 90 days for some breathing room if we want to take it.
Okay. Just second, Supervisor Seat. So Supervisor Brewer was just saying that the 90-day window provided in state law does give us some breathing room if we choose to take it. Currently, we do have on the agenda next Tuesday for the county board meeting to appoint a clerk, although I think there was some language in the advertisement that said, gave us a little bit of an out. It said we may take action to appoint. So Supervisor Seep, I'm going to let you speak, and I'm going to try to put the speakerphone up to the mic, and we'll see if this works. Go ahead. No, we do not have a motion on the floor yet. Are you willing to make the motion?
What is the gist of the motion required? Is the gist that we would the salary by hours until the term?
Great question. In this case, I'd like to read the drafted resolution because this is not on the agenda for next Tuesday's board meeting. I think we need to. That's right. Yep. So I'm going to go ahead and read this draft resolution, Mr. Seat. So the draft resolution says it's a resolution reducing the county clerk salary for the 2025 to 28 term. Whereas the county board passed resolution 20-44 in March of 2020, adopting the following salaries for the 2021 to 2024 term. County clerk, 79 grand in 21, 81 grand in 22, 82 grand in 23, 83 grand in 24. For both the county treasurer and the register of deeds, 64 grand in 21, 65 grand in 22, 67 grand in 23, and 68 grand in 24. Whereas Wisconsin statute 59.22 does not allow increases or decreases in salary for elective offices during a term, but allows changes in later terms. And whereas a review of county clerk salaries in 13 similar counties with a population of 15,000 to 24,000 and or neighbors found that the average county clerk salary for 2021 is 64 grand with a range of 55 grand to 74 grand. Whereas the county clerk no longer carries out duty administrative coordinator, now therefore be it resolved when elected official salaries are set for the 2025 to 28 term, the salary of the county clerk shall be reduced to equal the salary of the register of deeds and treasurer. And be it further resolved, this reduction should not be interpreted as a reflection of the performance of the person holding the office of county clerk. And be it further resolved, this is immediately effective. So I think if people right now want to propose, well, first, we should probably get a motion on the floor to to recommend this resolution to the county board at the Tuesday meeting. Then we, okay, motion by Seep, second by Luck. Okay, let's have discussion. Does anyone want to see any changes to this? That's I think where I direct some of this. Supervisor Gentis, you want to?
This is minor. I don't see any changes. I like it. I just want to, all of you realize that at 2025, it's an election. So the person in it may not be the same person. It's an elected official.
That's right.
Good point. Ms. Dadoun?
I was just going to say, just to add perhaps the language, whereas the decrease is appropriate because the county clerk no longer carries out the duties, sort of justifying the reason for the reduction in salary.
Would you recommend making that change in that existing whereas statement?
Yes.
That says, whereas the county clerk no longer carries
Yes.
out duties of the administrative coordinator?
Yes.
Okay, if you could hold on just a second, I am going to open up the Word documents and I'm going to try to track these changes and then I'm going to restate them to the committee and we'll see if we have anyone who wants to make that a motion to amend. So if folks could just give me a second here to get this document open up. Okay, can you restate that, please, Ms. Dadoun? I'm ready.
Sure. Whereas the decrease is appropriate because the county clerk no longer carries out duties of the administrative coordinator.
Okay, so what Ms. Dadoun is suggesting here is that we insert the following words between. Currently, it reads, whereas the county clerk no longer carries out the duties of the administrative coordinator. She would like us to insert 5 words between the and county. So that then reads, whereas the decrease is appropriate because the county clerk no longer carries out duties of the administrative coordinator. So would anyone like to make that a motion?
I'll make that motion.
Okay, so we got
I'll second it.
a motion to amend from Luck and a second from Gentis. Any discussion on that motion to amend? Go ahead, Supervisor Seat.
That is accumulated over the years through salary adjustments on the basis of the statute. So there are issues there that factors other than just the fact that the salary is reduced because the duties are reduced. The salary is also reduced because you're starting out with a beginning employee who over a period of years would have to accumulate the type of skill and job knowledge that this occurs because of time and service.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to go ahead and read the Attorney General opinion summary that relates to this topic because I have found it and I've blown it up now. I think I can read this. A county board may not adopt a step salary plan for elective offices related to experience of the office holder as compensation for the office, nor the officer. And the officer is entitled to the compensation as an incident of the office. So my read of that is that we cannot take experience into consideration when we set a salary for elective offices.
Mr. Chairman, that's qualified by the term step salary. We do not use a step salary system for those elected positions. Those decisions time, whether it's been annually or semi-annually or biannually, that we have adjusted salaries. It has been the salary system is not the governing factor. It has to do with a rather arbitrary decision about whether they're going to get a 2% raise or a 3% raise or a 1% raise. It is not related to an automatic step salary system as applies to our other employees.
Okay, so yep, yeah, I think you're correct. So we have to keep moving this along. So we have a motion to amend. I'm not sure if you're speaking for or against it, or if you want to propose another amendment, but let's make that clear right now, what you're proposing, or are you speaking for the amendment, against the amendment, or are you proposing an additional amendment? No, we are not. Okay. Any other discussion on the amendment? Okay, all those in favor of the motion to amend, please say aye.
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 All right.
Is anyone opposed? All right, that motion to amend carries. So now we have an amended motion, which includes a resolution that would go to the county board next Tuesday. Are there any other motions to amend? Okay, all those in favor of the motion as amended, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion carries. So we have a recommended resolution that will be going forward to the county board on Tuesday. I'm assuming, Mr. Langrek, you can work with Clerk Vlasic to get this added, and Chair Brewer to get this added to the agenda for Tuesday's meeting.
Understood, Mr. Chair.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, so next on
Mr.
the
Chair,
agenda. Yep.
this is
Yes.
Supervisor Van Landite.
Yep.
I'm not a voting member. However, I like what was suggested earlier, that we've got 90 days to fill that position. And my suggestion would be to take nearly the full 90 days. We'd save 2 months of salary in that way. And also, there's not much coming up over that period of time. And that would give us more chance to maybe find somebody that's very qualified to take Victor's position. This is fairly short notice that this is all happening. And I think that we need to look for the best candidate for this. We've got good people that have applied, and I'm sure there's others out there that may apply. So my suggestion is just simply to wait, a little bit longer, not vote for somebody immediately. And that's it. Thank you.
Yep, and Supervisor Van Lande, I'm just going to interrupt you because that's not on our agenda. That will be discussed on Tuesday, but I know that Chair Brewer had his ears perked when you were talking, so he'll, I'm sure, be thinking about that, and others will be thinking about this very issue too. So we'll see where it ends up on Tuesday. Yep, no problem. Okay, agenda item number 6 is personnel for courthouse security. Mr. Langert.
Mr. Chair, my PDF is loading here one second. Here we go. Looking today for motion to accept report on courthouse security key control initiative and report. In the previous March 25th, 2021 meeting, Finance and Personnel meeting, motion to make to direct the administrator to identify personnel to be in charge of the courthouse security and to include a key control plan and return to Finance and Personnel Committee with a recommendation. As such, the administrator has designated Maintenance Supervisor Randy Nelson with reviewing the current courthouse security plan and working with contracted locksmith to assess our current lock footprint and develop a plan and process to update our locks and reissuing keys to ensure accountability. This initiative and plan will be supervised and reported to through the Property, Buildings, and Grounds Committee in conversation with Supervisor Nelson as well. We do have different kits and materials, I believe, to do some of our own coring and Randy does make our own keys. Where we lack the expertise is somebody to be able to help and us determine what all the locks, what are the lock combinations that we have in place, and then help us visualize the best way to rekey and recore the building. So we have the preliminaries of looking into it. And again, Maintenance Supervisor Randy Nelson has been tasked with taking the lead on that.
Okay, so I'm sorry, did I interrupt?
No, I'm just turning back over.
So we have before us a motion to accept a report on courthouse security. just as a reminder, this came about because we had a complaint about use of court resources during the recent jury trial. We're responsible under Section V, this committee, to make sure that the personnel for courthouse security is addressed. We weren't sure at that meeting who was responsible or not. So this is our answer now that our maintenance supervisor, Mr. Nelson, is the person responsible. So now we know who it is. So thank you for getting this to us. So I'm just looking for a motion to accept this.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion by Supervisor Brewer, a second by Supervisor Luck. Go ahead, Supervisor Seat.
Would you state the effect of that motion very simply in a short repeat?
I would say, yeah, the motion is to accept a report that the personnel responsible for courthouse security is Maintenance Supervisor Randy Nelson. No problem. Any further discussion? Okay.
Sean,
This
is
yeah,
Mark.
go ahead. Yep, go ahead.
So my only question is why don't we go to a fob like we have at the jail and we have at Health and Human Services?
So under the committee structure documents, that is not our responsibility. It's a responsibility of the property committee to figure that out. So I'd recommend if anyone is interested in this topic, to contact the chair of that committee, who's Mr. McKee, or any other of the members. So Supervisor Cooey, definitely, if you want to get involved in that, that's who I'd recommend going to.
Thank you.
No problem. Okay, moving on to agenda item number.
Don't we have a motion that needs to
Did
be?
we not take a vote? I'm sorry. All those in favor, please, of the motion to accept the report on courthouse security personnel, please say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Okay. I did not. Okay, so that motion carries. Okay. Okay. Yeah, well, that's not on the agenda, so let's not discuss what's in the chat window then. So the next agenda item is number 7, capital projects planning process. I'm just going to give a quick intro to this before I hand it off to Mr. Langrek. I wasn't at the last meeting, which, by the way, thank you, Supervisor Cooey, for chairing that meeting. I haven't been able to rewatch that whole section yet, but I did talk to Mr. Langrek afterward, and I just asked if there was any direction on if the capital project prioritization should come from the administrator, if we want to hear his recommendation first, or if we want to go straight to the county board and do a survey to have all 21 county board members be able to rank the projects and then look at that. And he said that direction didn't come from the last meeting, so I just brought this item back so that he could get that direction. Do you have anything to add to that, Mr. Langer?
Mr. Chair, that's the overall gist of it. We reviewed a tentative plan. Some of those things are going to be updated on the tracker, and I'll come back to you, as well as the couple one-pagers that are still out there with the different projects. What it comes down to is the chair kind of framed is, when it's brought to you folks, do you want it brought to you sterile for you to figure out where the priorities are? Do you want it brought forward with a recommendation from myself on an order of merit? Or do you want it brought forward with we've done a survey of the crowd like we did last year during the budget process to try to gauge a county board perspective, finance and personnel perspective, and to be able to make a decision with that information. As we talked about in the last meeting, there's some of the financial pieces that we don't know right now. We're still waiting on Treasury guidance on how we can use our Americans Rescue Plan funds and how that criteria falls. We're still waiting for how the state can use their American Rescue Plan. We're still waiting for how the state's biennium budget's going to shake out to understand trickle downs and where their monies are going to be allocated to local government. And now we're also waiting for a potential federal infrastructure plan. I don't think that we're going to be able to wait on all those things to have 100% answer, unfortunately, before we're making decisions on this thing. So we would probably be in a much better position if we got to a point where we at least had our list kind of ordered in number on a merited kind of a basis. And as we have an assessment on how much financial capabilities we have, either through stimulus projects and through trickle downs, it's going to help us gauge on how we go through potentially a short-term loaning process again to take out other funds to cover those things. And at least having that first part of the conversation on what does the merit list look like, we'll then be able to just kind of focus on the financials of knowing where that cutoff's going to be, and knowing kind of what's, I visualize it as kind of like the NCAA bracket of having the last four out, the first four in kind of a thing that we can gauge until we get comfortable with a financial mark. Mr. Chair.
Okay, so we have two documents. I just want to point this out to everybody so it's clear what we're looking at, what motion we're looking at today. We have a 7A and a 7B. Just ignore the 7B. That was the first one that we posted before we received 7A. 7A has two different possible motions. The first motion is to request the county administrator come forward with a recommendation on capital improvements and capital projects by merit ranking, making the assumption that he would do the ranking. And the second motion is to request the county administrator prepare and distribute a capital project survey to each member of the county board to help in determining prioritization by merit ranking, assuming that then we would see an average, and that's the first bit of information we would get. So if someone would be so brave as to make one of those as a motion, as far as their preference, and then we can debate it and figure out which motion we're going to end up with.
And to be fair and in open, Mr. Chair, it would.
Just a sec. Yeah, go ahead, Supervisor Seat.
Which provides that the secretary or the administrator submit a prioritization of projects to the board. I think that if we...
Okay, just a second. So we got a motion by Supervisor Seep. Do we have a second for that?
I'll second.
Okay, we got a second by Supervisor Brewer. Go ahead, Supervisor Seep, and finish your thought quickly.
Reminds me of a jackass that resulted from a created by committee for on a horse. So let's not be redundant. I think that the administrator is statutorily authorized to do this, and I think it's more efficient. The board will still have an opportunity to have input and amendment to his resolution when he brings it forward for approval.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Langreich, you were going to say something. Is it still relevant? Do you want to add it?
I was going to say that it doesn't necessarily have to be in this or that. It could be, we would like both as well.
Okay, so yeah, further discussion, Supervisor Luck?
No, I totally agree with this motion. But one thing I just wanted to say is, can we talk about whether we're going to go over the 1 million borrowing at this point?
No, that's not on our agenda, but I'm assuming that's at a future, is that May 6th? We're going to be talking about that, Mr. Langreich?
Just as far as his ranking goes, I mean, I guess.
Oh, I see.
Making it, yeah, they were
will
making
the ranking go beyond $1 million?
$1,050,000 or whatever it is.
I visualize, like, what I'm visualizing is these are all the projects. This is merit order 1 through how many I think we have for this coming year of, if we only have $10, we may be able to do project 1. If we find out we have $500,000, maybe we can cover down to 16. Okay. And if we have more money,
rank them, and then we'll figure out how much money we have.
Exactly. And then with that too, we'll be able to gauge then if we're in that bubble area and boy, we'd really like to kind of see this one make it, then we're discussing on borrowing, we're discussing on exchanging other types of projects, etc.
Okay, thank you.
So all projects would be ranked.
But I would say though, at the same time too, though, I'm perfectly comfortable in bringing this forward to you. If I bring forward a product that we're not quite comfortable on, we really feel that we need buy-in from other folks, we can possibly still accommodate. It just kind of puts the crunch in then for timing. And we're still plenty far out to still be able to accommodate for the the drop deadlines of entering into short-term financing and those things. So we have time on it. It's just if we don't hit a decision point and we want to reach out to county board members to get that type of an input, those wheels take a little bit of time to move.
Okay, Supervisor Brewer?
All projects are equal. All projects are equal. Some are more equal than others, so.
Okay. Good, funny comment. Okay, any comments from committee members who haven't spoken up yet on this one? Okay, then all those in favor of the motion to request that the county administrator come forward with a recommendation on ranking our capital improvement projects, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Congratulations, Mr. Langrek. You get to rank the projects.
Thank you. I'm sure I'll make lots of friends through this process, Mr. Chair.
Probably not, but someone's got to take the first shot at it. So thank you. Okay, agenda item number 8, committee meeting calendar for remainder of term. So maybe something was worked out at the last meeting, so just jump in and correct me if there was, but I was assuming our meeting calendar isn't really set. It hasn't been laid out very well yet. We came into this committee back in 2020 in April and May. I think we were meeting once a month, and then we started to have some sporadic meetings. Additionally, as needed in budget season, we had quite a few. And then back in January, I think it was Supervisor Turk had suggested maybe we should do 2 meetings a month so that our meetings aren't so long. We've kind of started to do that, and I think the 3rd Friday of the month is what I'm hearing from Mr. Langrek. That's when we're meeting today, and that's when you guys decided to adjourn last time. So today I've got in front of you a motion to adopt the following committee calendar for the remainder of the term. We would be meeting twice a month to handle the volume and facilitate shorter meetings. We'd be meeting 1 p.m. the first Tuesday of the month and 1 p.m. the 3rd Friday of each month. That would be our solidified 2nd regular meeting, the 3rd Friday of each month. And we could still schedule special additional meetings, and we can still cancel regular meetings if there are a lack of agenda items. So I listed out all the meeting dates for 2021 and 2022 through April 5th, 2022. And I'm just checking to see if you guys want it this way or not. And if you don't, that's totally okay. We can do something different.
Move to accept this calendar.
Okay, so we've got a motion by Supervisor Gentis to accept this calendar.
Dave, I'll second.
Second by Supervisor Turk. Any discussion on the calendar? Supervisor Brewer?
Mr. Chair, I would suggest that the 2nd meeting of the month, in other words, the Friday meeting, always be prefaced by if necessary. Then we won't be forced into having a meeting that we really don't need and don't want and have to pay for. Just say if necessary, wouldn't that cover it?
Absolutely. Yeah, and I'm very comfortable canceling meetings if there aren't agenda items. We just did that for the last Rules and Resolutions Committee because we didn't have anything. So I've got no problem with that. And if anyone ever has an opinion, to say, even after an agenda is published, like, do we really need to be meeting? I'd rather hear that from the committee members than get everyone together and cause frustration. So yeah, definitely be open with me if you don't think we need the meetings. Okay, any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor of the motion then to adopt this calendar, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. And does anyone want to step forward with future agenda item ideas at this point?
If I can start, Mr. Chair, with kind of going through the list of things that have been shifted to the right over the last few meetings and things that we're anticipating addressing at the next meeting. Mr. Chair, we're looking at Health and Human Services, some new position requests for custodian, mental health therapist, mental health care manager. These positions are currently contracted, looking to have those assigned as employee positions. Looking at a contract for Avenue. I signed into an emergency contract when our AS400 system, we had some failings with one of the fans in February, looking to come back through now the process and have confirmation from this committee and through county board to have a contract agreement solidified. Parks Commission is looking for reallocation from Fund 75 money for the Viola well to be put now towards a Rock Ridge bridge project. We have a follow-up item from Supervisor Gentis on mask mandate in consideration. General fund closeout and deficiencies reports was an item brought forward as to be considered. Also looking at potentially purchasing a new AS400 system to replace our current box, which is kind of past recommended life cycle. And then also, as with our strategic plan and administrator transition plan, on having that positioned over in the climate control server room across the street, what that looks like. COVID-19 plan amendment. We have our COVID-19 plan out there as existing. Our environment is kind of changing. We need to kind of keep up with that plan to make sure it is still a relevant document. Considerations for mid-range or mid-year wage increase was brought forward from Supervisor Luck. I believe in the last meeting, we have not addressed that yet. 2022, we're looking for a review of fund assignments and working with our account supervisor. Mr. Bell is putting together a list for us that captures all of our funds, what the assignments are for responsibilities on budgeting as well as expenditure authorities, if those are lapsing or non-lapsing funds, and then also what the purpose was in establishing that fund as a report we're hoping to put together. 2022 budget, review existing partnerships. There's several different partnership petitions that are looking for considerations going forward into the next meeting, including our partnership with Hidden Valleys, as well as the potential for a tourism director position shared between the city and county. 2022 budget review on decision process, looking to kind of dovetail off of our scheduling here that we confirmed today to again confirm our process on our many different things, as well as on how we want the operational budgets delivered, if it's going to be reviewed by the administrator again or delivered through the Finance and Personnel Committee for that line item string presentation. Compensation classification and authorization policy is a document that has been distributed for review with departments. I'm hoping to put that together. A lot of it captures our current resolution language, as well as some of our amendment language for, our addendum languages, and trying to have one common policy, again, that captures our classifications, on how we're calling our positions, the reclassification, on how you would like positions to be considered for reclassification, the classification on how we're paying them, as well as the authorization part on fitting in how many positions each department is authorized and how we would maneuver on that. Pine Valley has reclassification request of 2 fiscal clerk positions, which we have deferred until later time. Looking for bank account authority on an account with departure of Clerk Velocic. There is an account through Royal Bank that we have to have reassigned. FLSA exemption report for management. We have a request from Supervisor Cooey to have a review on that. I do have preliminary conversations with Patrick started and need to reconvene with him, Patrick being our consultant through Carlson Detman. Richland County handbook changes, working with the Administrator Transition Committee. We have had a review on the handbook and now going to be doing the addendums on Monday and looking to have that then brought forward to Finance and Personnel for review. Resolution on a process for bringing resolutions through Finance and Personnel has been deferred for a while now. We did have loose guidance from myself put out to departments on how to get resolutions now through our interim corporation council, and then a standing item of revenue from reports from Treasurer Keller. Mr. Chair.
Well, I think you took the wind out of our sails. Why would we want to add anything to, Supervisor Gentis does.
No, well, Melissa brought up about the survey for broadband last time.
Oh, broadband.
Right? Yeah.
Potentially talk about it at this committee, because we didn't know what other committee it would be relevant for.
Okay, so broadband idea from Supervisor Luck and Supervisor Gentis. I actually did have a running list going myself as well, and I had American Recovery Plan on the list. So we could discuss at some point how that $3.5 million will be spent.
Ideas. I was just going to say, Mr. Chair, you may want to schedule next time for the full 90 minutes.
Yeah, right. And keep our 2 meetings a month, at least for the coming one. Supervisors Turk and Cooey on WebEx, did you guys have anything to add?
Nothing to add to that list, no.
Nope, I don't have anything. Just to let
Okay.
Linda and Melissa that I did talk with Extension, so they're willing to help with that broadband thing.
Good.
Okay, and then I don't hear any other ideas.
Well,
Oh,
just
Supervisor Brewer, go ahead.
Going
Sorry,
on-
I tried to cut everyone short. I should.
going on with your American Recovery Act mention, part of that, at least I think that part of it is giving immediate help to various people in the community that you identify. And one of the things on the letter that we got from the Wisconsin Counties Association, it said, for instance, maybe you think that bars and restaurants in your community really need help. Therefore, they would be first on your list. So it's my interpretation of that money under the Recovery Act is meant to get out there right away. In other words, to stimulate the economy, just like every other piece of money that's come out of COVID relief. It's meant to stimulate the economy. So that to me takes on more immediate attention than we're giving it.
Okay, good to know. So American Recovery Plan, specifically, the timeliness of spending the funds. I think that's one of the questions regarding that.
Right.
Okay, any ideas from additional committee members? Or I should say, any additional ideas from committee members? Because I think everyone's spoken up already. Okay, so hearing none, that takes us to agenda item number 10, which would be adjournment. I'm looking for a motion to adjourn to Tuesday, May 4th at 1 p.m. here in the county boardroom with WebEx also as an option.
So moved.
Okay, motion by Luck,
I'll second it.
second by Gentis.
Can I make one comment before we do? Just to follow up on that, the scheduling on the 60 minutes was on me this go at it, so it was not on Sean on my
Whatever. I liked
attempted
it. I-
levity early.
When
My
you said we
attempt at
only
a
had
joke.
60 minutes, I thought this is great.
So-
Okay, all those in favor of adjourning to that date, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Thanks, everyone. Yes, Supervisor Seat.